Hi YouTube, welcome to another edition of HorrorHands, and for this video I'm going to be talking about The Barn. So The Barn is a film that takes place, it starts out in 1959, and at the beginning of the movie there's a church and there's a bunch of kids and they're about to celebrate Halloween, and the priest says to them, go and enjoy Halloween but stay away from the barn. There's no adults to supervise you, so keep away from there, it's not safe. Well, a couple of the kids disobey him and they go and check out the barn, and there's a light on inside the barn, so one of them knocks on the door and says trick or treat. But in doing so, this kid awakens this evil force, which in turn resurrects these three characters. One is like a zombified miner, one is a pumpkin head character, and the other is a scarecrow, and they emerge from the barn and kill this kid. It's a really good start to the film. And then it takes place, it goes forward in time, and it takes place in 1989, and this is where the rest of the movie is set. So it's set in the 80s, which is awesome. And these two guys, they want to go to a rock concert, and they meet up with some friends, and it's Halloween night, so they decide to just pass a bit of time and make their way to go and see this rock concert. But on the way they stop at this barn and they sit round this campfire and they tell sort of spooky tales for a bit in the spirit of Halloween. And then one of them is dared to go and knock on the door of the barn and say trick or treat like the kids did before, which they do, and again they resurrect this evil where these three monsters come out and start killing them off one by one. And these kids have to sort of find a way to destroy these evil creatures that have come from the barn, and that's the story of it. I really enjoyed this film. I've not enjoyed a film this much for a long time. It really did blow me away how fantastic this is, and it really does feel like it's a film that has come straight out of the 80s. It was made in like 2014, 2015, but it is such an 80s looking film, and it feels such like an 80s film that one could imagine that it did actually come straight from that genre, which is just fantastic. And a lot of films nowadays do try and dress themselves up to be an 80s throwback, but you kind of wonder how. I don't feel that. Whereas The Barn, you can tell they really have researched the 80s and looked at what made the 80s so 80s and incorporated it into this film. I've done a bit of research into the film and found out that the director wrote this years ago when he was like a kid at school, and over time it's manifested into what it is now, and he's finally had the chance to make the film. And it really comes across that this is a labour of love. It's not just a film that the studio's churned out. It's made by someone that likes horror films, that cares about horror films, obviously a massive fan of the 80s, and that comes through and is evident when you watch this film. It's got a really good balance of horror and comedy. There's lots of gore in it without it being too much, too in your face, and it's got a really good climax towards the end where these characters, they invade like a local dance, and it's just chaos, but it's awesome. It's really enjoyable. So I would recommend this to anyone that likes horror films and 80s horror films. If you've not seen The Barn, certainly get a copy of it, because I thoroughly enjoyed it. I would love to see this guy, the guy who made this film, I forget his name, but the guy who made it, I would love to see him do something else and keep making movies, because if they like this, then that would just be fantastic. It's like an 80s horror fan's dream come true. Is seeing a film like this. So I really hope he does something else. So let me know if you've seen this movie and what you thought of it, and stay tuned for more videos.